Rain battered the tarpaulin above the makeshift field tent as the SEAL medic, Chief Petty Officer Harlan, Doc Pierce, worked under the dim red light. His gloved hands were steady, his jaw tight. The battlefield had gone quiet, too quiet. The team had taken losses. And one of the wounded was still on the table, silent, bloodied, and barely breathing. She hadn't said a word since they brought her in. Not even her name. Doc leaned over her shoulder, pressing gauze into a deep shrapnel wound. Hold pressure, he ordered the young SEAL beside him. She's losing too much blood. Her uniform was torn, her face smeared with dust and streaked blood, but her eyes, those calm, gray eyes, watched every move he made. She wasn't panicked. Just observing. You from Intel? Doc muttered, checking her pulse. Don't look like one of ours. No response. Ma'am, he said louder, you with the rescue team. Her lips parted slightly. She whispered. Her voice was hoarse, deliberate, like she hadn't used it in hours. Doc frowned. What's that supposed to mean? She didn't answer. Instead, she moved her hand weakly toward the tray beside her, where his tools were lined. Her fingers brushed a clamp, nudging it toward him. What are you doing? He asked. Her tone was almost imperceptible. You're about to hit an artery. He froze. The SEAL beside him blinked. What did she just say? Doc glanced down. His forceps hovered a fraction too close to the femoral line. He shifted, adjusted, and realized she was right. Perfectly right. He looked at her again, eyes narrowing. You some kind of medic? He asked. Something like that, she murmured, eyes closing for a second before fluttering open again. Something like that, Doc echoed, half incredulous, half impressed. He finished the suture, cleaned the wound, and nodded. All right, mystery girl, you're patched enough to live. But don't try any hero moves for a while. Her lips curved faintly. Too late for that. He stared at her again. There was something about her calmness, her composure even in pain, that unsettled him. Most soldiers screamed, cursed, or begged for morphine. She just watched, analyzed, corrected. Like a teacher quietly grading his work. Get her IV stabilized, he ordered his assistant. And find out who she's with. I want her unit ID. The young SEAL nodded and checked her tags. Chief, there's no tag. Nothing. She's blank. Doc raised an eyebrow. That's impossible. Everyone in this zone's registered. The woman shifted, grimacing as she sat up slightly. Not everyone. Stay down, he snapped. You move again, you'll rip those stitches. Her hand stopped midair. You're using nylon. It'll hold. The medic blinked. You know your sutures, huh? Her gaze flicked toward him, sharp and calm. I used to teach them. The tent went still. You taught field sutures. Doc repeated, not sure if he'd heard right. She nodded faintly. Fort Bragg. Before they shut the program. Doc took a step back. Hold on, you were Army Medical Command. She hesitated, as if calculating how much to reveal. Before the transfer. Transfer to where? Her gray eyes lifted to meet his. SEAL Team Omega. That name, Omega, made the air itself tighten. It wasn't a public designation. Most operators hadn't even heard of it. Doc's jaw clenched. Omega's off book. Classified. Doesn't exist on paper. She winced as she adjusted her bandage. Then let's keep it that way. The tent fell silent again. Outside, thunder rolled over the valley. Inside, every man in the room watched her as though seeing a ghost. Doc finally spoke, his voice low. You don't look like a SEAL. Neither do you, she shot back softly, her tone dry. He almost smiled. Fair enough. The silence stretched. Then Doc asked, what happened out there? We pulled you out alone, no sign of your unit. She inhaled slowly. The memory flickered behind her eyes. The ambush, the chaos, the silence after the explosion. They were captured, she said. I stayed behind to draw fire. You stayed behind. One of the SEALs muttered. You were outnumbered. Her eyes lifted. Someone had to. Doc studied her again, this quiet woman who'd said almost nothing yet commanded the air around her. She didn't fit any box he knew. Not a medic, not an operator, but somehow both. You took a piece of shrapnel for your team, he said. Why didn't you call for evac? She stared at the red light overhead. Because I thought they'd come back. The tent buzzed with the generator's hum. Outside, boots crunched in the mud. Inside, everyone felt the weight of her words. Finally, Doc exhaled and handed her a canteen. Drink. She obeyed, sipping slowly, wincing as she swallowed. He could see her hands trembling, not from weakness but restraint. The kind of control you only see in operators who've been too far, seen too much. All right, Doc said, crossing his arms. If you're Omega, prove it. What's the first field triage step when under indirect fire? She didn't even look at him. Suppress, secure, stabilize. His eyebrow lifted. And the blood type of your nearest teammate? She didn't hesitate. Oh, negative. Smith. That froze him. Smith was one of the captured men. You remember every teammate's blood type? Doc asked. I remember their vitals, she said simply. It keeps them alive. He stared at her, then gave a small, grudging nod. All right, you're not bluffing. She leaned her head back, closing her eyes. Didn't think I was. The rest of the night blurred in the storm. The tent shook with wind. Doc kept checking her vitals, and every time he did, she was awake, silent, alert, calculating. At dawn, the radio crackled. Command to base, Omega tags located, 3 prisoners confirmed alive. Doc turned toward her. Your team. Her eyes snapped open. Where? Grid Sierra 9. Extractions in 8 hours. She started to rise, ignoring the pain. Then I'm going. Doc stepped in front of her. You're not going anywhere. You're barely patched. She looked up at him, calm as ever. I taught you how to patch. Don't tell me what I can't do. He hesitated. There was something unbreakable in her tone, not arrogance, but conviction. He sighed, shaking his head. You're insane. Maybe, she said, pulling on her torn vest. But they'd do the same for me. By the time the SEALs prepped for extraction, she was already standing at the jeep, a rifle slung awkwardly over her shoulder. The others exchanged looks, half disbelief, half awe. The woman who'd been half dead hours ago was now leading point. Doc climbed in beside her. You sure about this? She adjusted the strap, grimacing slightly. You questioned my training, remember? He couldn't help the grin that tugged at his mouth. Guess I did. She looked at him sideways. Then let's see if you learned something. 8 hours later, under heavy fire, it was her voice that cut through the comms, calm and precise. Medic, left flank, 2 down, 1 breathing. Morphine in the side pouch. Move. Doc obeyed without hesitation. Somewhere in the middle of chaos, he realized he wasn't leading anymore, she was. When the team finally reached the extraction point, battered but alive, command came through again. Omega operative confirmed safe. Mission recovery successful. Doc sat beside her in the chopper, watching as she finally exhaled. The wound on her side had reopened, blood seeping through her shirt, but she didn't seem to care. He leaned closer. You ever gonna tell me your name? Her head lolled slightly toward him. You'll read it in the report. He chuckled softly. You think I write reports? For the first time, she smiled, faint, weary, but real. Then just remember me as the one who taught you how to stitch right. And before he could reply, she closed her eyes, the storm outside fading into dawn. Doc looked down at her, shaking his head in quiet disbelief. Wounded and silent, he muttered, almost to himself. And still the toughest damn soldier I've ever met.